Saludos y bienvenidos todos to the PGP podcast. Hey, welcome to episode 68. Josh Toad, proud principal of Memorial Pathway Academy in Garland, IZ, Garland, USA. Ready to rock and roll. And today's show took it off a little bit what the norm is, the trend, but we'll get into that a little bit. Hey, we want to thank you very much. You know, we cannot get to 68 shows without having the support of everybody out there. The comments that we hear throughout the week. Thank you very much, and we value you. Whether you're watching it live right now or you're going to watch it in the rebroadcast, please make sure that you like and share it. Part of the algorithms, because remember, we are only learning from each other, all our successes, all the positive things from superintendents to last week. Our registrars, our clerks, our bus drivers. It doesn't matter who it is because education is a ongoing, developing profession that as time passes, technology passes, we need to learn from each other because you know what? Iron sharpens iron. So if you're interested in being part of the show, please reach out, whether you're in Alaska, whether you're in Hawaii, whether you're in Maine, or you're in Florida, or anywhere in the 48 middle. We need you. We're all facing the same dilemmas. We're all broke. I don't know about your state, but Texas is broke, and we ain't got cash. But we need to get those ways of coming around and making sure to remember that this is free PD. We're part of the Fantastic Four Network. Fantastic Four Network that happens every Saturday with Sean Hurt at 10 o'clock Eastern, all Facebook times, Tammy and Shika at 10:30, and El Jefe. Do I need to say anything else more? Principal Cafele, making sure that he rounds us up. And we are the anchor show of the Fantastic Four with the PGP podcast. So make sure that you like and share it and grow the algorithm because there is no more money. This is free PD. We can't sign any more POs. You have to give like your next 3 grandchildren and 7 pints of blood to go to a conference. So please make sure that you take advantage of this opportunity. Pop quiz, Moreno. Put in the chat, put in the comment your favorite clerk. Who was your favorite clerk? Do you remember them when you were in school? Do you have a favorite clerk right now? Put it in the chat. Let's make sure we send those flowers while they're still alive. We got to do the recognition that, you know, you always got to make sure you make people feel comfortable and supported by the beautiful little words that it is. Don't forget that in September, we're moving up 1 hour forward to 5 p.m. Central because we know one thing. Football's back in season, and you're all going to be watching your shows. I understand it. So as a good administrator, I got to make sure that I adjust, overcome, and make sure to make things happen. So Moreno, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Josh. Thank you so much for asking. I am home. My spiders are where they're supposed to be, and I'm excited. I'm actually flying down to the Rio Grande Valley tomorrow. I'll be there for a week, but I will be back at home on Sunday for our Sunday podcast like we always are on at 4 p.m. Actually, it'll be 5 p.m. this next time, right? Next Sunday.
Today's the 24th plus 7. No, in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. Okay.
In 2 weeks. There we go.
All right. So next week.
I'm a history teacher. I'm not a math major. All right.
No, so I will be back at home again. But yeah, a really quick, short trip down to South Texas.
Just tell the audience real quick, Moreno, what do you do? Why are you going to the RGV, Rio Grande Valley?
So I was a school principal, just like Josh, working with brand new immigrants and refugees, working at Las Americas in the Houston Independent School District for 28 years. And so now I am a consultant working for right there, Newcomer Success. You can find me on all platforms with that handle. And just a really quick shout out. I am looking for cohort 4 and 5 to go back to Tanzania. If you guys are interested in immersing yourself with Maasai people, we are going in February and July. So shoot me an email or just find me on any social media, DM me, and yeah, come along with me.
So if you want to see past videos and everything of her IG is the best place to see all that, correct, Moreno?
Yes, absolutely. Instagram, TikTok, those are really, really good places. I even have like where we're staying there and what do I do and how do I do it, all of that information, a little bit more about my background. You can definitely find it there. And it's very, very engaging and fun. There's some fun videos on there.
For sure. And so before we get into our awesome guest today, our Chinchilagua moment. Jeff, I know Jeff does not know what Chinchilagua is. He's looking at me like, do you put sour cream on that, Josh? No, you do not put. That's a chimichanga. A Chinchilagua, Jeff. And it's a game played by Mexicans, all right? And what we do is that we get a bunch of family and we we have our parties, we got our food and everything, right? And so you line up against the wall and you yell, Chinchilao ahí arriba, boy. And there's your uncle's right there in the wall. And then you yell that and you jump on top of your uncle. Then your grandma yells that and she jumps on top of your uncle. It just becomes a big human pyramid. And then it's all fun and games. It's all fun and games until paz. Someone falls, your little cousin breaks his head open, and grandma comes out and starts hitting everybody with a chancla. It's all fun and games. Well, school's starting. Starting week 3. Other places already are week 4. I know that every week coming forward, new districts, different states start. My message to you today is this. Let's have fun. Mm-hmm. Don't forget the fun. Don't forget the collegiality. Education is a tough field, and it's really being scrutinized right now. So it's more important right now that we all embrace in the fight, in the challenge, in assisting with the learning gap. Because, you know, the bad thing about, and I don't mean to take out our, because I always say, let's not take out our dirty laundry, but you know what? It happens sometimes that there's departments that are at odds with each other. And I'm sure that happens. It doesn't matter what field. It doesn't matter what field. There's always people at odds with each other. You know what? I once worked at this one high school where all of the counseling staff disliked each other terribly. all 5 disliked each other. And there would be door slamming, and you would have union reps coming in. Let's not lose sight of the point. Let's not lose sight of the vision. Let's not lose sight of the purpose. Because every single last day that those kids wake up, they need a champion. Mm-hmm. They need that teamwork from you, because things changed a little bit with this being outlawed now, which is good for me. But in the end, learning is not a simple thing. Take it from a knucklehead in school. We need your support, we need your love, and we need a champion out there. And adults being at odds not only creates a schism within the culture of the school, but the kids see it. The kids feel it. And sometimes some unprofessional adults talk to the kids about other teachers. Mm-hmm. And then that just passes out through that undercurrent of the school. So I'm just saying right now, let bygones be bygones. Start off the school year in an effective way. Embrace the challenge. Embrace the love. Because in the end, that kid that graduates in May and in June, you all had a part in it. The custodian had a part in it. The counselor had a part in it. Pre-K, Head Start, 7th grade, 11th grade, everyone had a part in the success of that child. So let's make sure that we embrace the journey, and we are all builders. What do you think, Moreno?
Josh, that is very, very great advice to put, to tell everybody, because it's true. We're in the beginning of the school year. Why are you going to start off negative, right? So absolutely. Wake up in the morning, and you know what? At the end of the day, you get to go home, and you don't have to take those people with you. I tell people, don't make it personal. It's not personal. Just do your job, do what you got to do. And sometimes I know it's hard. I know when you were talking about the different counselors fighting, I was in those situations too. And it is hard. It is hard to kind of settle that down. And you're absolutely right. The kids can feel it. They know it. And sometimes they even rub that off and kind of throw more dirty laundry at you guys. So please, please, please don't refrain from doing that, because it's not healthy, and it's not healthy for you. Why would you want to go to a school where you're just bickering and it's just terrible? So, do what you need to do, kind of, bury the hatch, if you will, and start off the year phenomenal. Do a great job. And you know what? The kids, it's all about the kids. And if you do it for the kids, that's all that matters.
Exactly. So bringing in our guest right now, I suggest you go back to last week's show. I think it's very important. We didn't get that many views. I really recommend last week's show, because you guys need to hear, the audience needs to hear from our clerks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. We've had national speakers. Yes, we've had big names on this show. Yes, we've had superintendents. But it's our clerks and our bus drivers. They're the initial catalyst to communication with the kids. When the parent calls in sick for the kid, or the bus driver picks up that kid at 5:30, they're the first line of defense, or in this case, beautiful offense of love and appreciation. So check out our show from last week. And a big shout out to Shika Houston, my sister, Fantastic Four. I'm wearing this in honor of her because it's her birthday. but also it's football time. Football is back in season. We're ready to rock and roll. College started. But talking about started, let's get our panel in here and welcome our awesome guests. One more. Our awesome guests, because today we want to hear from the community. From the community. Let's make sure that we hear and what they see, dig into that brain and learn from them. Stick, Moreno.
Oh, you know what? This is going to be a great podcast because you know what? I can't tell you, as a former principal myself, we must engage our community. And sometimes I'm telling you, some principals don't know the importance of engaging our community and our community leaders. So I'm super excited to have you guys on the show today. And hopefully, a lot of people out there will really see the impact and how including our community members into our schools is so important. So, before we get any further into our show, I'm going to start off with Tom. Can you please tell the audience a little bit about yourself, sir, and give them a brief summary of the different steps or roles that you had to take to reach your current role? And what's your current role again?
Sure. So my name is Tom Whitten. I'm currently the chief of police in Lacey Lakeview, Texas, which is basically in Waco. And I've been in law enforcement for like over 35 years. I started off in El Paso, Texas. I worked my way up. I retired. I was a chief of police in a couple of places. Most recently, the Valley. So I'm glad you're going there. I was just there yesterday. It's awesome.
Where in the Valley?
So I was the chief in Harlingen for about 3 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So I just took my kids to South Padre, and it was awesome. But it's funny, you're talking about engagement, and right now to be like a successful police department, you kind of got to be a 21st century organization. It's all about citizen and police community partnerships and citizen engagement, and the same thing. And everything educators do is awesome. We always try to get with them when they're in the middle school to make sure we don't have problems. You guys play a bigger role than we do. And so we're just always looking to partner as well. And to get to being a police chief, like you said, you kind of, I guess you really have to know that. You have to stay current. You have to clearly you have to get an education. And Josh, I won't give him any kudos, but that guy didn't motivate me. That guy made me go to school. But I appreciate it, and that's how I got where I am today. So
awesome. So I'm assuming you had to start off obviously as a regular police officer. Then when you went up the ranks, like sergeant and lieutenant, and then assistant chief.
Right. So everything I did, it was always, for whatever reason, it was about 3.5 years, right? So I was an officer for 3.5 years, and a detective for the same amount, then a sergeant, then a lieutenant, then a captain, then a deputy chief, then an assistant chief. So when I retired from El Paso, I was an assistant chief. And then, like I said, I was the chief of police in a couple of places, most recently Harlingen. I actually left there to go back to El Paso County, and I retired from there as the chief deputy. There's differences between what a county does and what a city does. But again, the policing things, the citizen, the partnerships are all the same. The engagement has been the thing for many, many years. And that's really what you have to do to be a successful department.
Amazing. And you know what? Thank you, sir, for the work that you do. Because you know what? We're running away from the bullets while you guys are moving towards the bullets. So, kudos to you.
Thank you.
How about you, Jeff? Same question. Tell the audience about yourself, and then give them a little brief summary of the different steps or roles that you had to take to reach your current role, which is
Mayor of Sachse, Texas. It's great to be here. And, my career in government started with just trying to find a summer job, believe it or not. When I was going to A&M as a student, I got tired of flipping hamburgers. So I thought, hey, there's got to be something better out there during the summer. And I actually got a job painting the road and putting up stop signs with the city of Garland. And I thought, you know what, this ain't so bad. And that kind of got my taste for government and service. That's where it started. And as I went on to school and graduated, I got to thinking, you know what, this is a pretty rewarding career to be able to go serve in government and help out. And while I started on the staff side, about 15 years ago, I transitioned over to the public service elected official side. And, we could talk all day about that, but we're not here for that. But one of the best things about my job as mayor is the relationships with our school districts and a lot of other groups. But you mentioned it very briefly earlier, and I'm sure we'll get into this, is that those relationships with those the administrators in your town principals especially, that is invaluable. And if you really want to have a pulse on your community, those are the people you talk to. And that is one of the more satisfying things about being mayor, is that getting to talk to troops on the ground, if you will. And but one day it just started with the summer job, and now I'm serving my community as mayor, and I couldn't be happier and love every minute of it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm telling you, most principals don't realize, inviting, because sometimes it just requires an invite, right? Mayor, come on over, visit my school. Hey, chief of police, come over and visit my school. I had a fire station across the street from my school, and I would invite, that person or those officers or those firefighters to come over, and I would have donuts for them. So it's important to kind of bring people in, right? Just so that we can invite, because it takes sometimes the principal to pick up that phone and invite, because you're not going to do it yourselves. You need that invite. That's that person to kind of. So thank you so much, and we're going to talk more about that shortly. Crystal, being a business owner, man, I know I had lots of businesses around my school, and I always welcome my businesses around and coming into my school. But before we talk a little bit about that, please tell the audience a little bit about you, your background, and I think I gave it away. You're a business owner, so.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much for having me here. It's a real pleasure. So yes, my name is Crystal Holeva. I'm the proud owner of Extreme Core Fitness. It's a fitness facility in Horizon City, Texas, which is just kind of north of Socorro, which is where I taught. I taught at Socorro High School with Mr. Josh Slavad for, I'm not sure how long you were there for. I was there for almost 10 years, I believe. I did about a year in North Carolina when I lived there. So my degree's in biochemistry. I'm a science person. I love science. I've always loved science. I was very blessed to always have wonderful teachers growing up, and always wanted to become a teacher. I thought it would be more later in life. It just happened to fall into place the way it did. So after grad school, I started teaching again in North Carolina, moved back to El Paso, started teaching at Socorro High School with a wonderful group of teachers that I love very much and still keep in touch with to this day. Taught for about 10 years. After about 7 years in that, decided, long story behind that, I'm not sure how much we can get into, but got into the fitness environment, really loved it. It helped me so much. And so much so that I wanted to help a bigger group of people than just as an instructor. So that's when I decided to open my own business. It was in 2015. So it was October 2015. I'm about to hit year 10. Super excited for that, and super grateful that I get to serve my community in a different way now.
That is great. Oh my goodness. I can't believe we have a business owner, we have a mayor, we have a police chief on the call today. And I want everybody out there to really kind of listen to how do we engage and how do we engage our community, because it's so important, not only for your school, but for the kids, right? Whether you're in elementary, middle, or high school, it doesn't matter. How do we support and engage and bring that relationship together? So awesome.
All right, big shout out to people watching us right now. Sudi, I don't know where you're from, Sudi, but thank you for being here. Constance Gerard, part of the Fantastic Four family, our number one cheerleader of the network. McKeever Jeter, thank you for being here. Fonz from the RGV past guest. Fonz, over 340 podcasts. He is the man. I can't keep up with his new episodes. They're all AI, and I don't know what they're talking about. But yes, like he always says, this is why I do not watch his show. The caveman cannot keep up with AI. It's true. Thank you for being here, Fonz. Appreciate you. Jefe, the top dog right here. He's going to go see the Yankees, hopefully beat them Red Sox. Thank you, Jefe, for being here. I think that's everybody right there. So, and thank you, guests. I want to thank you. Normally I'm pretty good at getting 5 guests, 4 guests. You know how hard it was to get guests for this? I would reach out to fire chiefs, other business. Oh, no. I'm like, come on. People, the education needs to hear your side. And no. Let me get back to you. I'm like, you're not going to call me back. So thank you, panel, for being here today.
I just want to know who would turn you down. Who would turn you down?
I'm that. No. in a neighboring city there, Mayor, very close to us.
Uh-oh.
Tearing me down. I'm like,
Well,
all right.
we'll leave that one alone.
Exactly. Yeah, politics. I know that. I said I would never set anyone up for failure. So, guys, this is what a lot of us educators, we get in a niche, and Crystal could tell you that whatever we do is within our niche, within our group of teachers that do the same thing that we do, and sometimes we get lost in what everything's around us. So we don't know how to promote other fields that are not within our sphere of influence. So I want you to describe, Tom. I want you to describe to a 7th grader. All right. So right now your conversation is out there. That way, teachers know how to explain this. I'm not saying that teachers are 7th graders. I'm just saying, just break it down, break the play down to basics. What do you need to do, both educational and professionally, to become a chief of police? I know it's different in every state.
Yeah.
I know it's different in every county, but let's just use you as an example. What did it take you to go from civilian to chief of police in the different areas that you've been under?
Well, certainly, you know, and like you said, when you're young, you know, you don't really pay attention to everything that you might need to do correctly in the future. But you know, certainly just be a good student, be a good kid, keep your nose clean, right? Not have a record, and that's kind of what this whole SRO thing is about. And our appreciation for teachers is all about that. But you know, when you get out, and like you said, there's different rules in different states, and in Texas, you know, you don't have to have a degree to start, right? You don't. And but if you join any larger organization, they all have implemented recruiting standards and educational standards. So to move up, you certainly have to have, you know, for example, you'll have to have, say, an associate's degree to be a supervisor, and then probably 90 hours to be a little bit higher. And if you want to ever get into the command ranks, you're going to need to have a bachelor's degree. And if you want to, you know, get above that, probably a master's degree or two. I just think it's, you know, it's very competitive, but you have to stay current, right? And you know, the kids just know that, just learn as you go. Like you said, a 7th grader, do well in 7th grade, do well in 8th, graduate, and you know, certainly go to college. You know, departments make it easy for you to go to school. You know, in Texas, I don't know if everybody knows this. If you're in law enforcement, it's actually, tuition is actually free all the way to get a bachelor's degree, as long as you're in a Texas State university. So I would just say, you know, just do that. Attend our citizen police academies, our youth academies, our explorer posts. We're always in the schools. Our SROs are there, and believe it or not, they're recruiting. If they're in the middle school, they're recruiting already for the future. So it's a great career, and it's a great way to give back. And I actually think, you know, we're all kind of, this whole panel is kind of doing the same thing, right? It's about giving back to the community, and that's why we're there early, to try to convince them that we're a good place to go. It's a good job to do.
As you reach the, I guess it's the peak in your profession, being chief of police, does the level of education really separate? In other words, does a master's trump a bachelor's, or is it work? Does that make sense? Am I asking the right question?
No, absolutely. So I would say that, and I'm probably the same in a lot of fields, right? Everything being equal, then absolutely a master's will trump the bachelor's, right? And of course, in law enforcement, right? Like I said, the state has rules. So in Texas, the organization is called TCOL. It's the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. They have certain standards. So you have to attend leadership or management courses, whether it's the Law Enforcement Institute of Texas, or whether it's the FBI Academy, right? You go to the National Academy. I've done that. Most police chiefs have done that program. You just have to have both practical experience as well as academic experience.
And in your journey, going from being patrol to your stage right now, and this is one of the questions I ask a lot of authors that are speakers, that are current active educators. Was it difficult for you to go to school while still doing your regular job? How did you fight that?
So, you know, like I said, you know, organizations that value education, they make it easy for you to go. And I'll tell you, when I was younger, you know, like, I like the excitement. I worked 8 at night till 4 a.m. on purpose, basically so I could go to school. You know, and then I guess when I finally got promoted to deputy chief, at that time we were going through a police chief change, and everybody knew that there were going to be even more strict, I guess, or more difficult educational levels that you had to achieve, right? So in the end, I was actually taking 5 classes at Park University on Fort Bliss,
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that pathway. Thank you for letting the audience know. Crystal, business. You took a crazy loop around, young lady. So explain to that 7th grader your angle, and it doesn't specific, just I guess, you tell them how you got there.
Well, actually, what I'd like to share is that you never know when you're going to need what you've learned. Learning is never, ever, ever oh, I should have never learned that. It's kind of like a workout, Oh, I regret that workout this morning. Never, ever. You never regret a workout. And you should never regret any kind of education. And I love giving this example. And I would give this example to my kids as I was still a teacher. So again, I'm a science person, degrees in biochemistry. So I have more science classes under my belt. And then when I decided to actually first get my personal trainer certificate, I'm in a personal training class, right? It's a course on getting your certificate. And so the guy giving it is this big muscle guy, not much of a science guy, more of a workout guy. But he has to teach us, certain things about muscles and stuff. So he's trying to explain the sliding filament theory of how muscles work. And he's trying his best, and then I was about 30 at the time. I know this kid next to me was about 19 years old, and he was ferociously writing everything down. And he looks at me. I'm not writing anything down. I'm kind of chuckling and seeing this guy struggle to describe the sliding filament theory. So he looks at me, he's like, why aren't you writing anything down? And I said, well, I'm a science teacher. And he's like, oh, so you know this stuff? And I said, I bet you wish you would have paid attention in your biology class. And then he's like, yeah. And so I would tell my kids, like, you never know when you're going to use something. So when a kid tells you, I'm never going to use this, why do we have to learn this? Oh, I would get on my soapbox immediately and be like, you never know. You may never use it. You never know. But chances are you may. And so just because there's a chance, you should learn absolutely everything that you can, because at the time you may think this is useless. Nothing is ever useless. Everything you learn is there's always going to be a reason for it. So yes, my what I do now is a little different, but I still use all my biochemistry. So I help people with nutrition, right? That's all biochemistry right there. And I can explain things to them so much easier. And the teacher in me will always be there, right? So I still get to teach all the time. I love it. But what I would say to a 7th grader is learn everything you can and know that nothing is for nothing. You will use it at some point, either to help your kid with their homework or, you just never know. So always be open to learning, make it fun. As a teacher, share that example. You never know when you're going to need it. And I've always been a fan of learning. I've always loved learning.
And what would be the first initial step you would recommend to that 7th grader about just getting the business open? Because your dream, you used everything that you have as a knowledge to do the extreme core fitness that you have right now, right? But just in the concept of a business, what would you tell him or her? These are the first 2 or 3 things you need to do to ensure that you get the loan. Or I don't have a business, so I don't know how to specifically ask you that question. So what would you tell them? What are 2 things that you would need?
So that's funny, because going into business, I didn't even take a business course in college. Like, I had zero business acumen, zero business experience, nothing. I went from teaching and everyone told me, Crystal, you don't know anything about business. What? Why would you do this? But gyms fall all the time. Like, are you insane? A little bit if you get to know me. But the thing is that, all the training that I had in college and learning to learn, because you kind of have to learn. It's a thing. Helped me learn everything I was going to have to do for a business. So yes, you are going to need a business loan, and banks are very, very, very. They don't want to give money to startups. So I had to apply to God knows how many banks, and it was so cute. I'd get them all excited and wow, and so they were really going for me, but then they would go to the underwriters. The underwriters would see I had zero business experience, no collateral. I mean, nothing. What is this girl trying to do? And so they would deny my loan. So I went from, I finally had to go to a nonprofit organization called People Fund, no, Lift Fund, one of those two. And one of them finally said yes. And, but there was such a huge learning curve. But because I had gone to school and I had, worked my way through to overcoming obstacles, whatever obstacle it is, it's a muscle that you have to learn to overcome obstacles. Mm-hmm. Because I had that fairly strongly, I was able to overcome all these things. And I mean, it was hurdle after hurdle, crying in the fetal position countless times, because I mean, once the loan came through, it was an equipment loan. Well, I had to put bathrooms in. How was that going to go? It was very, very, very difficult. But because I had worked so hard through college, and that's why I say always learn everything you can. You never know when you're going to use it. And that helped me overcome all those initial challenges. Learning. So if a kid wants to start a business, learn what taxes you have to pay, because those lessons they will hurt, because they will fine you. So learn what taxes need to get paid. Learn that's a number one. And then just, fail forward. You're gonna fail. That's how you're gonna learn, especially with no. And even a business degree, I've been told a lot, like, that's great if you're going to climb the corporate ladder, but if you're going to have your own business, it's kind of just, you do have to fail forward. So it's a road that I don't regret taking, but it's been quite a learning curve there.
Thank you, Crystal. That great journey. Love seeing what you're doing. Experience, and you have been successful. Those roller coasters, God bless you for that. I just didn't want to transition when you said taxes. I got my man right here, man. I got my man right here. I don't want to talk about taxes or anything.
There's no subject off limits.
All right, Jeff, my man. Well, talk to that seventh grader. You want to be the mayor of Garland, Sachse, Rowlett, insert your city. This is what I suggest.
Yeah. So what do you like? What do you like to talk about? What's your passion? And when you take that, and are you a convincing person? Can you convince your friend to go, hey, let's go have lunch over here? Back in the day, that, hey, let's go over here to this part of the playground. Are you a convincing person? Because if you are, your future is bright. Now, I say that with one caveat, is that yes, you want to speak the truth, of course. You don't want to just talk nonsense. But I would, if someone told me that when I was in seventh grade, I would have probably got a little bit more of a head start, because it's all about service. Do you want to serve other people and help other people? And because I will tell you, being a politician, and I always like to jokingly say, I hope I'm just a politician by definition only, not the politician some people think about. And that's another challenge of my position. But if you're younger and you have any inkling of wanting to serve in that capacity, then you have to have a passion to do that. And my first experience with that was at Garland High School with student council elections. Now, I never ran because I was a band, and if you were a band, you were a nerd. And they didn't nominate you for anything. But I noticed that, hey, these kids, if you're running for student council president, these kids had to get up and make a speech on why we should vote for them. And that was one of the first experiences I kind of got with that, is because we had 3 or 4 people that were running for student council president, and you could imagine they all had a little bit different takes on it. But at the end of the day, someone convinced me to vote for that person as opposed to the other two. Mm-hmm. And that was my first taste of that. And when that person won, and the one I voted for didn't win, but when I thought, well, why did the other person win? And this is the other part of what I do now, is you listen, you talk to people. And I would tell anybody 7th grade on, please listen more than you talk. And that is hard for me. My grandmother told me I got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Do more listening than talking. And I've tried to follow that. I don't always do that. But because especially when you're younger, you think you know everything. And whether you graduate from high school or graduate from college, I got this all figured out, and I'm on my way. And of course, hindsight's 20/20. Of course, looking back on all of our childhood, we know that we far from had it figured out. But how do you actually get to the point where and we'll never all have it figured out, but how do you learn more and more each day? And Crystal was saying a lot of great things about, failing And hey, I didn't know this. And by the way, yes, there's no class that you take. I'd also say this: there's no class that you're taking that you won't use.
Mhm.
And the one I always talk about is economics, because that was the most boring thing I ever had. But guess what? My other hat I have on, I'm a business owner myself, so it definitely comes into play there. But you were talking about taxes. If you're going to serve in the public realm, then I know it sounds crazy, but you have to have a basic understanding of finance.
Mhm.
You really do. And if you want to be, if you want your city, in my case, if you want your city to be on the right side of that. But I would just tell students, whatever grade you're in, is that if you will listen, and if you will even seek out someone that's not like you, someone that you may think, hey, well, why do they think that way? Especially if there's a disagreement. Of course, obviously do it respectfully. But, well, why do you think, in some cases, such the opposite of the way I think? And what typically you'll find out is that they had a different background than you. They had a different experience than you. And not that that's good or bad, it's just different. And you may not, hey, I didn't know that was a thing, or that was a challenge. And you apply that to my role today, is that, Saxe is a diverse community, probably diverse than a lot of people realize. And if I only listened to one set of demographics, then I wouldn't be a very good mayor. And when you take a step back and say, hey, there's a lot of different points of view, you don't have to agree with all of them, but the more you listen, the more you're going to learn, and then the more you're going to learn, the more you can serve others the right way. And I would just say that to any age group. I was just speaking at the DECA group at Saxe High School last week, and there's a big, high school kids, a business oriented group, and I told them, I said, the first thing you got to do is you got to be able to market yourself,
Mhm.
and how do you do that? And there's a ton of different ways to do that. But I just wanted them to start thinking is that if if you can't convince someone that they need to do business with you, whether you're a business owner, whether you're like me, vote for me, whatever the situation is, if you can't convince someone that you're the right person for that job, then you won't get that job. And I would always like to say that if you sell somebody something, then you're probably not going to be successful. However, if you convince someone to buy something, then you're going to be way more successful. And again, it's not just literal sales. It's what are you selling? What are you trying to convince someone to buy? But listen, and I promise you the other L will follow. Learn.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. Very true. Very true. And I think that fits everybody to be an effective business owner. Same thing. Listen to your customer. Also, we've seen enough on Live PD. We got to listen being in criminal justice. I, I do. I'm like, dude, just shut your mouth. Just listen. Don't say anything else, bro.
I usually get them in trouble.
Cállate. No digas nada. Before I hand it over, Da Costa, one of my friends from Africa, all the way from the continent of Africa. Thank you for being here today. Hey, panel, and anybody out there, I want to do a part. I do part 2, 3, 4, 5 of this. Hey, mayors out there, reach out. Hey, chief of police out there, business people, don't be shy. Come on board. We need to hear your story. Most importantly, educators need to be able to communicate this vision of listening, of everything is important, about the scaffold up. Crucial that we communicate with educators, because you know what? There's a big exodus in education. A lot of educators are leaving, a lot of administrators are leaving, and so they need to make sure that they learn about these different pathways in life. Stick.
Awesome. Guys, before we go on to our next question, I want everybody out there, out in the audience, please like and share the podcast. I'm telling you, it is so important for you to hear what our folks are out in the community are saying. And we have a great sample of community leaders here on our podcast today. So please like and share. It'll help the algorithm. And hopefully we can inspire our principals and assistant principals to really reach out to our community members, because it's so important. I know we have certain, a mayor from a certain city and a chief from I understand that, but please reach out to your own city mayor and your own chief of police and your own firefighters, but listen to what they have to say, and then reach out to your own, so that you can then work with your community, because it's so important. You're going to hear how these folks are really, really working with their own community and their own schools. I mean, you heard the mayor right now talk about you're at the high school. So There you go. So awesome. Just please make like and share on all platforms, you guys, so we can definitely really share this message to everybody. Crystal, I'm going to start this question with you, my friend. I want you to look back at your journey, because your journey is really different as far as how you started. And so I want you to look back at your journey, back to when you were like in either in elementary or middle and high school, and who inspired you? And I'm looking at who inspired you to take risks, because you ended up a teacher, and then you did a leap of faith and said, you know what, I'm going to go into business. And that takes ganas, that takes guts to do that. So who inspired you to kind of really kind of have that muscle to do something like that? And if you can remember what they tell you, what did they say to you that you said, you know what, I could do this?
Well, I've been extremely, extremely fortunate to have some really wonderful, wonderful teachers from kindergarten all the way through my whole life. But really, my elementary school teachers, and she was crazy. Most people can't say this. I'm probably one of a very handful of people in the entire world that can say this. My elementary teachers get together twice a year. That's how close they were. And we just met up less than, I think, about 2 weeks ago. I get to have breakfast with my elementary school teachers once a year. And I get to tell them. And so the first time I went was probably about a year and a half ago. And I owe so much of who I am to them. They believed in me and I can tell you all their names. I can tell you their first and last names. I know their children's names. Most people can't even remember their teachers' names. And I was so fortunate in that they were so wonderful that, it was so beautiful that I got to, go and tell them how much I appreciate them and how thankful I am of the role that they played in my life. So I was very fortunate again in that from a very young age, I was told how capable I was, how smart I was, how that I could do anything. And I think that belief, I can do anything. So I did, so I, again, went from being a teacher, steady income, insurance, to no steady income and no insurance, and figure it out. And, my son says that he's going to put that on my gravestone, figure it out, because that's what I would tell him. That's what I tell my kids that all the time, my students. But that's a big thing, is figure it out. And so my teachers, again, at a very young age, were all about, not just teaching black and white and then, what's in the book and stuff, but a lot of it was thinking outside the box. They were very big on thinking outside the box. And so I think learning those skills at such a young age was so important, plus the confidence that they gave me. Again, they were just poured into me, all of them, all the time. And I get to tell them, thank you for that, twice a year. And I make sure to go to those things and always be and now we're like all on Facebook together. My first grade teacher always liking all my posts. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So I think as an educator, understanding the power that you have to pour into these children, to pour into them, whether you believe they are or not, you never know what's inside them. You never know what they've been through that's going to, block them. But if you just believe in them, no matter what, whether they're the worst kid and the kid, I remember a lot of times the kid that gave me the hardest time, once I got to know them and their story, they were the closest, they were my closest students. And I was very fortunate to do that as well, to get very close to my kids. I call them my kids. I don't even call them my students, right? So many of them would call me mom. I'd be walking down the hall, mom, what? But always pour into them, because all of us have that in us to do whatever we set our minds to. And so many kids don't have that confidence.
Yeah.
As a teacher, that's the number one thing you get to do, is to pour into them and give them that confidence. And before you teach math, science, anything else, do that, pour into them, and it'll mean the world to them.
Such great advice. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because so many times, and you said elementary, here we are adults. We all are adults. But every one of you, I'm sure you can remember somebody who inspired you back in the day, said something, did something, showed you something, so that you can go back and say, you know what, I did it because of them. And these people will never know that they inspired you in the way that they did. So I'm super excited that you guys have a chance to kind of showcase and really highlight all of that today, because what you say and what you do in your classrooms today, you never know how that's going to impact those children and those young adults in the future. So thank you so much, Crystal, for sharing that that information. And kudos that you get to still hang out with your elementary teachers. That is so
So
cool.
cool.
Yes. Jeff, how about you, sir? What is it about your journey, whether it's elementary, middle, high school, or it could even be college, right? Who inspired you? Because being mayor, that is a pretty big task. There's only one in every city, so it's tough to get there. So, who inspired you, and what did they say to you?
Well, there's a couple of examples that I will first and say, I will piggyback off what Crystal was saying, is that teachers have such an immense, really, you can't even measure the impact that they have on students. And some students just need a chance. Some students just need one positive word, to go forward. And like you said, the old saying, you can plant a tree, you may never get to sit under it, but you're going to plant that tree for somebody. But I've had I've been blessed with so many great teachers, but there's two that stands out. So my government teacher in high school, Mr. Hammerly, who you may know in the GISD world, he was my government teacher at Garland High School. And, government class, hey, we're just going to learn about the three branches of government. And okay, I know about that. Boy, I tell you what a surprise and shock we were all in for, because I always like to say this, and I've had a chance, I still talk to him every now and then. He taught us about life. And it is something that I've never forgotten. The first day in class, he said, nobody's going to say yeah, nobody's going to say nah. They're going to say yes, sir, no, sir. And there was no exceptions to that rule. And he said, it's all about respect. And probably the big word I associate with Mr. Hammerly is accountability. And as a teenager, you don't always like to hear that word. You just like, hey, I just want to do what I got to do to get out of here. And he told us that you are going to be held accountable for everything you do, good and bad. And probably the bigger lesson he gave us is nobody's going to give you anything. You got to go work for it. And anything of value. And those words have stayed with me to this day. And then a quick example, in college, my speech communications professor was really, really good. And she said, hey, if you can't communicate what you think, what you're trying to get across, even if it's a great idea, it may be the most brilliant thing ever, but if you can't communicate that, you have no communication skills. And so keeping those two things in mind is that, why would you want to, some people would say, why would you want to take on the responsibility, which is a volunteer position when it comes down to it? Why would you want to take on that responsibility? And it's those teachers that gave me that guidance and that inspiration to do it. That's why I love going back to the high schools, love going back to the middle schools, elementary schools, and talking. I just never turn those down, because when I was in school, the teachers cared enough to say, hey, Jeff, there's something in you, and if you follow these principles, you can do it. And I just want to give that back. I really feel like that the teachers I've had, and there's really too many to count, but just the things they teach you, and Crystal said it is something that you're impacting their life. And you may not see it, you're certainly not going to see it that day, but you're going to see it down the road. And I would not be where I'm at without teachers that cared. And the old saying is, you remember the bad teachers, you remember the good teachers, you don't remember the in-betweens. And it is something that they make such a big impact, and accountability and communication are the two that I got taught by teachers, and that's helped me get to where I am today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And you know what? It had to be that government teacher, right?
I know. Yeah, it kind of fits pretty good now.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Jeff. Tom, I don't know what teacher or what was it, elementary, middle, high school, that said, you know what, you're going to be You're gonna have two guns.
There you go. So I probably, I guess I'm being honest. I probably wasn't as good of a student as Crystal was when I was a kid. But I can tell you that, I went to school a long time ago, right? And I remember by name the teachers that were awesome, right? And some of them really were. And it's probably a lot of the accountability thing. I mean, they did say positive things, but, laced with a little you can do whatever you want. You can do great, but you need to try. And if you cared a little, like I said, I could have done a lot better. But like I said, I can remember the ones that were awesome. There were many of them. I remember when I graduated, we had to walk and I didn't want to, right? Because my first name's Elwood. And back then they demanded they call you that. And I was that kid that said, if you're going to call me that, I'm not going to go. And I remember the counselor went, she made them call me Tom, and I went. And you know what I mean? They're good. They're good people. So, but anyway, when I got out, I went to the military. And I think that's kind of where I decided, I need to kind of get everything together. And when my neighbor went to the military, my friends went. When I got out, I went straight into the police department. And that's kind of, like I said, even though I was brand new, I could read, like we had a contract and we had a manual, and I knew what kind of educational steps were required. And it kind of hit me like everything that all those teachers were telling me all those years is kind of coming to fruition. So I really didn't get on it until then, so I would say I was probably like, a C student maybe throughout high school. And then 4.0 is my master's, because I realized the importance. But like I said, they were telling me then, and if you're going to give a name, I remember this lady, Mrs. Lashes. She was my English teacher. That's what I wanted to get my degree in at first. And as soon as I became a junior and I realized I had to take simply, I don't know, all literature classes, I knew it was time to change. But but they were great. So yeah, what teachers do is very, very important. And like I said, I remember the great ones like to this day.
Awesome. Thank you. I thought you were going to tell me it was a police officer in high school that,
No.
that said, I want to be like you. It's kind of like I wanted to be a principal because I lived in the principal's office. So
No, we just had security guards, and we know them, and they were always chasing us and stuff. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you.
Panel, looking from the outside in, we all know that schools bring a brilliance to the community. And then again, it could also be a downfall, depending on what the culture of a campus is. It's a fact, I've been around. This is my 13th school in 33 years. So from elementary all the way to teaching on master's level, I've seen it all, the gamut. And you guys bring clean eyes. So I ask you this, Jeff, I'm going to start off with you on this. Looking from the outside in, because our kids represent us, whether we want to or not. They're wearing their Letterman jackets. They're wearing their T-shirts representing their DECA clubs, their choir clubs. They're repping us when they're wearing their gear, their merch, all right? And so sometimes there's a stigma to a school, whether it be positive or non-positive. There's a stigma to a campus. So looking from the outside in, from being a mayor of a city, not a huge city, but still a good size, good population with a school with 3,100 kids, I think, last count. 3,100 kids. And we're not addressing your high school. We're addressing overall. What does a school need to maintain to have a healthy culture within the community? What is your opinion on that?
Yes. Participation in the community, I know that sounds maybe kind of strange, but I'll tell you what I mean, is that, like you said, how are the kids representing not just themselves, but when they're out in the community? The thing that we always hear about is that, you hear about good things, you hear about bad things, but it's okay. Especially something I know Tom can attest to this, I'm sure, is that, okay, if there's a crime that's been committed, for example, and it's a juvenile, where are they from? And that's always what we find out. And it's something, it's an issue that we just have to deal with, unfortunately, sometimes. And as a community leader, I'm looking for, okay, are these the kids that live in our community doing this? Or is there something, are they from somewhere else just coming in? But it's not just about that. It's about, okay, even if it's whatever the situation is, how is the high school, really even a middle school, whatever school you want to look at, is how are they reacting to that? Are they saying, hey, hey, we don't believe in that. That's not us, or is it, hey, well, everybody does it. And as mayor, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, okay, what's your response to that? Because a lot of times we get caught up in, well, they did this and they did that, and that's obviously important to look at. But I'm looking at, what do you think about this? Is this acceptable to you? And I don't mean to kind of steer it negatively, but it's just a good barometer of, okay, what are the values that high school has? Do they think, hey, that's not our community? And so I feel like that that's where the communication comes back to, is that, what kind of relationship, does a school have with their community, and whether it's the mayor or the city manager or police chief, fire chief, what have you. And that's why I want to have a great relationship with everybody, not just the school district, but really anybody. But that's on me too. I can't just to say, hey, well, I'm the mayor, so they should come to me. Like I talked about, it's because I feel like that I have to set the right example to say, hey, if you want me to come talk, I will, because they may not know how we feel about things. And I feel like that you can't have that relationship you'd really want unless I'm willing to reach out to them and say, hey, this is what we're about, and we want to be on the same page, because if we're on the same page, then we can make our community that much better. Because the thing that, that you don't want to have happen is you don't want your community in general to feel like there's some kind of divide or schism between the city and the school district, the city and just pick the organization as part of the community. You don't want that. And so if you can show that, hey, we are all on the same page, we don't always agree on every single thing, but from a public facing standpoint, we want to be, in Sachse especially, we want to be your partner, and that helps us be better, and it helps them be better. And when we're both on the same page, we can make our community even that much more of a community that people, hey, I want to go there, I want to live there, because they all have the same goal in mind. And I can tell you from my standpoint, the kids are the future of our community. And in order to make sure that our future is what we want it to be, we have to engage them early, and we have to say, hey, well, what are your concerns? Because the one thing I will say is that we do tend to get caught up in, it's okay, what's the adults say? They're the ones who vote. What do they say? But you can't stop there. You got to go beyond that. And again, that's why I like to go back and talk to them, because I don't know what they're thinking unless I go there and find out. And so that's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for with a high school, like I said, middle school, what have you. It's like, what are your concerns, and what can we do better? And I feel like that's the best way to get the community that you want to have.
Thank you. That's awesome. I agree, and it's a two-way thing. Because when Socorro, when I was with Chris in Socorro, that's a similar size city to Sachse right now, and it's great to have that connection with our community leaders, to have that. And Tom has a different angle of this, because a lot of times when Tom's field gets involved with schools, it's not a lot of times in a positive way, because of how our kids react. They represent us after a game, or the fight at the stadium, or after the football game, they go out and eat, or they have a party. And so everyone's wearing their garb, and you got PD there. I'm not, it's a fact. It happened when we were in school. It hasn't changed. All right. A person in the community, your friends in high school used to do it too. All right. So before we judge our kids are going to do nonsense stuff and always be, Elvis shaking his hips on TV show. So it's one of those things that there's always a challenge to authority. So Tom, what do you see?
So you're right. It's certainly complicated, but when I first retired and I was a chief, I was in a small town in Iowa, and maybe you know this, maybe don't, but like if the town's small enough, usually the law enforcement, like the cars will be the same color of the schools, right? And you'll be there all the time. And like I can tell you, when I was in Iowa, we had one school, right? And all our cars were their colors, and we had their little logos on there. And our partnership was great, and those students were awesome, and we had very few problems, knock on wood, right? I guess relatively. So that's awesome. When you're in a big city, that's not exactly the same, right? Certain schools will have much more problems than others for whatever reasons. I can tell you, I think it's come a long way. I think administrations are cooperating everywhere. I know there's a new law that requires basically an armed person in schools, but even before that, I could tell you in El Paso, for example, we had SROs in all the schools in the county. We had SROs in all the schools. We had partnerships with everybody. And it really is all about that engagement. And it's getting to like the high risk population early and doing things you can do to avoid the problems later. I can tell you in my current position, this is my first time in Central Texas, and where all the cities kind of touch each other and stuff. And it's a little bit different, right? So, we think our school's pretty great. The city right next door, if there's ever problems, my guys are always saying it's those kids, and that police department's always saying it's these kids. And we do everything we can. We go to their copy with the copy events. They come to ours. We go to their chamber events. They come to ours. Our SROs interact with their SROs. We're fortunate in the city I'm at that the school district actually has a police department. So they have an officer in all the schools. And we interact with them daily too. We have meetings quarterly with the police chiefs of both these school districts. But the relationship's what matters. When the kids, I guess, view law enforcement positively, they kind of cooperate willingly. And that's really like our goal at these football games or any after school activities. And as far as the garb, our kids in our district, Connolly, those guys, they wear that stuff everywhere, and it's awesome. They're, for the majority, they're great kids. We don't really have that many problems. Like I say, we blame the neighboring district and stuff, but we all work together, and so far it's been really good.
Thank you for sharing that. And a healthy, again, relationship with our business owners. I was at one high school that there was only one McDonald's in front of it. And during lunchtime, what would happen? They would get bombarded. And just like always, they were knuckleheads, right? They would do the wrong thing. They would set up fights in the back. They would do all that stuff. And the business owner had no problem with their kids making them their budget. But when there was a fight, come and get your kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Come and get your kids. I go, well, no, they're beyond my 300 feet, and you didn't call me when they were ditching over there. You didn't care when they were hanging out at McDonald's all day, spending their money on your Wi-Fi. But it's not a good relationship to have with our business owners. And Crystal, you don't want kids going by your place and leaving their pizza boxes, their bags of chips as they're walking home. That, again, you represent us. And we're us as in the community that we live in. So, Crystal, from the business point of view, what do you see for a school to maintain a healthy culture?
Okay, well, kind of twofold. So, as a business owner, I also now hire, right? And so it's like a front desk position or a kitchen, and so it's right out of high school. And unfortunately, sometimes I get them, and it's like, they don't have very many skills. They don't have, and this is where it gets a little on the negative side. I feel they're just maybe not as prepared anymore. But then you go to back when I was a teacher, and a big reason why I left, honestly, is the accountability. Mr. Jeff talked about that was one of the things that helped him most from the teacher. And that was something that was, I felt, taken away from me. I couldn't hold the kids accountable. And I don't think it's the teacher's fault. I don't think it's even the principal's fault. It trickles down, right? Graduation rates are higher, the more money, and money is what counts. And I think that's really hurting us, because then I get them as employees, and I have to train them again and again and again, and not all of them. Some of them I get that are really good. Ironically, I had one student who, she was still in high school. She was awesome. She was super smart, and I, after the first week, I thought, man, your teachers must love you. And she said, my teachers hate me. They make me cry every day. And I thought, but you're so smart, And so I think there's just a lot of things that need to be worked on. Teachers are exhausted. They're overworked. They're stretched super thin. They are, they don't have that autonomy. They have their accountability taken away from them. I think it's a lot of things that, I get to see. Again, a big reason why you wanted us is because we're on the outside looking in. And I have, I think, an even maybe greater perspective because I was a teacher for a long time. I was in the trenches, and then, you know, I left for a reason, obviously, and it was to chase my passion and go into that. But I really did love teaching. There were certain things I didn't agree with anymore, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And so it's bridging that gap of how, you know, as a business owner, we're going to get those kids. They're going to graduate and they're going to come work for us. And, you know, that there has to be something that we can't just graduate them all, because what's going to happen? And yeah, you know, the common accountability is needed at home. Absolutely. That was, you know, another, and at Socorro, actually, I think that was the better place for parents. Parents backed us more than they didn't. I would have, you know, about 9 out of 10 parents would back me. Yeah, you do whatever you discipline my kid. Only the one parent would be like, no, my kid's an angel. Whereas I've heard other schools, it's quite the opposite, right? So that's another difficulty that teachers deal with. But I think the biggest thing is taking away our ability to hold the kids accountable. That is one of the biggest problems right now in education.
I thank you for that. I agree with you. That was one of the conversations I had with our team at the start of the school year, that when you go to McDonald's and the kid does not look at you in the eyes, when you go to Chick-fil-A, well, they have to say it at Chick-fil-A, they get trained that way. When you go to Arby's or to JCPenney and the kid doesn't, if it's not on the machine and you ask for a special something on the side and it's not there for them, they don't know how to problem solve. They spaz out. They start panicking and they can't look at you. And I told our team members, that's our product.
Yeah.
We put them out there. We put them out there without showing them soft skills of making eye contact and shaking hands, of using pleasantries. You don't have to say sir, 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 just pleasantries instead of yeah, or not just even communicating. So educators out there in Iowa, in Nebraska, in Colorado, that's our product. Yeah, sure, go with slope. Yeah, sure, go with the periodic table of elements. Yeah, sure, go with your progressives. But we still need to teach the soft skills that people like Crystal need. When they come into conflict out with Tom's people, they need to be able to have the soft skills to communicate with PD. When we go and have our electricity cut off or our water cut off, or something happens at City Hall,
Yeah.
you got to be able to troubleshoot and ask the proper questions, because they're so used to this addiction right here, and there's no troubleshooting here at all. So remember, educator, part of those lessons is teaching them the soft skills, communication, of making eye contact, the simple things that will produce the great citizen that we require in this beautiful melting pot. Stick.
Josh, thank you so much for making this such a really nice transition. You talked about this, sir. You talked about the cell phone. And we're actually going to start off with Crystal, because Crystal can talk from both sides. So in Texas and many other states now, I understand, cell phones have now been banned from schools, from the hours, from whatever the hours of schools are, 8 to 4 or 7 to 3 or whatever your hours are. They are no longer able to pull these cell phones out. So, Crystal, what's your opinion about this new law in Texas and in some other states? And maybe some other states are probably going to look at Texas and other states and saying, let's see what they're doing and see how this kind of works out. But what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I don't see how that wasn't a thing earlier. I mean, it makes as much sense to me as having to put a sign in the women's bathroom saying only toilet paper goes in the toilet. Like, why would you need a sign? Like, that's common sense, right? It's just, don't get me. Okay, you got me started. So, that was one of my biggest struggles is the kid. And then see, now it's even worse for teachers because they have the little earbuds without the little cords, right? In my day as a teacher, they had the cords, so I could kind of catch it better and be like, hey, take those out. it was a constant struggle that would take time away from me teaching what I needed to be taught so the kid can do well on a test, right? And so I don't understand why that was such a huge thing. And I see comments on social media about the parents, well, what if we need to get a hold of our kid? There's a landline in every phone, the way we had growing up, and we made it just fine. I do not, for the life of me, understand. Like, that takes away from your kids learning. Do you want your kid to learn? Because your kid's on the phone the whole time. You know, as a teacher, you know, it's weird. Sometimes when I would get teachers' kids, you would think, oh, good, I got a teacher's kid. Like, this kid's going to be on it. And sometimes they were the worst ones, ironically. And so I made sure whenever I would go to my son's parent-teacher conference, I would tell the teacher, I'm 100% pro teacher, like 100%. This kid misbehaves, I will be like, he won't misbehave because he knows, right? Yeah. He knows, but I'm 100% pro teacher. And I wish, you know, more parents would be that way, because they think, oh no, my kid would never. Come sit with your kid. Come sit with your kid and see what he does. You know, the phone was just a nightmare. It was
a distraction, like Constance is saying.
But not even, I can't even describe what a nightmare it was. So for me, that thing, and I'm not a teacher anymore, and I'm like, yes, because I still have a lot of very close teacher friends, and I feel so bad for, you know, stuff they had to go through. But at least that's one thing that has taken away that will, you know, help them. And yeah, sometimes we would, you know, play Kahoot, and they would use their phone. But why would they use their phone? Because they forgot their laptop.
Yes.
Why are you forgetting your laptop? You know, it's a whole, we could go down that rabbit hole. But I'm very for, you know, having the phones taken away. I think that should have been done a long time ago. I think hopefully we'll see some changes now, and the kids can get back to learning.
And some soft skills.
Yeah, you know, we can have more time, because if we can actually teach now, then we can teach some of the other stuff too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Crystal. Tom, how about you? How about what is your take on this new law as far as cell phones being put away?
So I agree with Crystal. I think I don't want to say it's common sense too, but yeah, they're there to learn. I don't think they need to be on them. And I guess I get that from I was over at a couple of jails for the longest time, and you can't have a phone in there. And they're adults. They'll take a phone in there, right? And they'll use the same thing. Well, what if my kid needs to call me? And I'd be thinking, like, isn't your kid in school? But anyway, you can't have a phone in there. You know, you need to be paying attention to what it is that your responsibility is. And in school, your responsibility is to learn, right? So I kind of agree with that. And then outside of that, it's complicated because, you know, they call themselves like constitutional auditors, right? Everybody's running around with a cell phone, and they're filming everything, making sure that we're not doing anything we're not supposed to do. And, you know, so on that side, we're like, you know, film whatever you want, it's fine. But as far as being in a school, I think that's just a distraction. I agree with Constance and Crystal.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom, so much. Jep, how about you? What do you say as a mayor, getting this cell phone off or out of the children's hands?
Long overdue. It's as Crystal said. I don't know why we didn't do that way before we did it now. I think the harmful thing that cell phones have done in schools is erode our kids' critical thinking skills, because one, they don't communicate with each other, or didn't when you just had the phone. I'll tell you a funny, quick email we got from our principal, Mr. Krill at Saxony High School, the first day of school. You know, he gives us a recap. Hey, everything went smooth. And he goes, the most amazing thing happened. Kids were actually talking to each other. You know, which for us on this panel, we're like, that's so crazy that's such a revolutionary statement to make. But it's the harmful effects that has had on our kids in school, probably outside school too. But you could just go on and on and on. But it goes back to what I said earlier. Kids do not know how to communicate. And you cannot just say, hey, well, I'll just shoot him a text. I'll shoot him an email. And as we all have fallen into this trap, why is he so mad at me? You get that text, and I'm not talking about capital letters. I just you can read into it what you want to read into it. And you may be in a bad mood and take it the wrong, or you may be in a great mood and you may think, oh, okay, that's a great email. And then they come back and say, well, how come you didn't address my concerns? Believe me, I see that as mayor all the time. And it's something that the more we can our kids can actually communicate with each other in real time, if you will, they're going to be better for it.
Yeah.
And look, we're all addicted some way to our phones. Unfortunately, it's just the society we live in now. However, it doesn't mean that we can't take a step back sometimes, especially our generation that grew up without this, and we all turned out just fine. And hopefully, this is a small step for our kids, because as soon as they get out, they're right back on it. But hopefully, this 8 hours, 7 hours at a time during the week, they don't have it. Hopefully, slowly they will come to realize that yes, definitely need it for certain things, but I don't need it all the time.
Yes.
And I hope that's the biggest takeaway we get from that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pano. And thank you so much for answering the question, because right now it's kind of the new thing. I think, Josh has been in it for 3 weeks and people are kind of going through those growing pains. But you know what? I saw it on my TikTok the other day. Kids were playing Uno during lunchtime and they're having a good time. So they're making way. They're doing okay.
So we're down to our last 2 questions, guys, and they're pretty quick responses right now, so we could get into our lightning round. We'll start off with you, Tom. We discussed the good things, the people that inspired you, and then with some of the things that we just mentioned right now, which are both, obviously, in every field, there's a positive and non-positive situation. So, but from your angle, again, my question is from your angle, from all 3 of you, business, city, and police. What can you do? What do you feel you can do? Not so much even in your community, but just as an idea, as a thought, to assist the schools to kick it up a level. What do you think? Give me one idea from the PD point of view to help schools in their environment.
Well, I guess I would say I like that you say non-positive, right? Because there's been a lot of talk about accountability, and look, and I'm not in education, right? So I really don't know how it works. But as far as what can help us out, I know that we'll go there sometimes, and like say the SRO or any law enforcement guys call there for whatever reason, they'll bring something to maybe administration's attention, and like not always, but sometimes they'll be like, no, that didn't happen, or we don't need to bring that forward, and that's really not helpful to anyone. And the officers that there can't ignore it, right? So it's going to be one of those things you mentioned earlier, like a point of friction when there really doesn't need to be one, right? Something happened, and we try to bridge that in all the meetings that we have with them, and I know they have a perspective too. But I guess to answer the question, we can all just work together, and it's all about education, even each other, right? So that why we need to know, and we know why you might have the position you have, and so forth.
Got it. From the business point of view, what can the business community do to enhance a middle school around you, a high school, pre-K? What do you feel, Crystal?
I think more events where businesses get to maybe go talk to the kids, especially the fitness aspect of it. In high schoolers especially don't really get PE anymore, or they get it for 1 year or 1 semester, or they can get out of it with band. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. But I think more interaction with the community, and that's another big idea I have for education, as far as making it fun again. You cut them down to a 30-minute lunch. They don't get to. That's the best part of the day. You cut it all off. The kids hate. You ask any kid. My own kid. Sadly, he hated school so much. He refused. He gave me 1 year of college because I made him, and he's like, it's just not for me. He hated school growing up. He didn't have the same experiences I did with my teachers, unfortunately. I hate school so much and hated school. And you ask any kid nowadays, I run every morning. And as I run, after I give all the 5 a.m. classes. So I give a 5 a.m. class and then I go for a run. And as I'm running, there's a middle school and an elementary school. And you see kids walking to school. They look like they're walking to a dungeon. Like they're head. And I pass them and I say, good morning. I hope you learned a lot today. And they look at me like I'm a freak. And then they keep, walking. kids just hate school so much. And I think we need to bring back pep rallies. We need to bring back activities that make them like school again, and then include the community, the businesses. When you do an event, have them there's just so much we can do that unfortunately for who knows what reasons we're not. But I think getting the community more involved so that the kids have more fun in school would be a good idea.
Thank you. Jeff, City?
Yeah, everything Crystal said, community events is the key. In Sachse, we were very fortunate, even though we're not a one high school, one district town, so to speak, but Sachse High School is associated with Sachse. And so we have homecoming parade every year. And Garland ISD is, a little different because if you got the 4 high schools in Garland or 5, it's kind of hard to say have a Garland parade, but, but in Sachse, we have this opportunity to grow the community. And that's why, like Crystal said, it's just have fun. We had, when I was in high school at Garland High School, we had a pep rally every game. I know now they have it once or twice or something like that. But it's just more fun. But from the city standpoint is we want to be a partner with you. And so something as simple as, hey, you know what? We're going to get one of our fire trucks in your parade. It's something that everybody's going to like. Oh, great. Ooh, cool. Shiny fire truck. And we have SROs, of course. And one of the things that we preach to them is you're not a police force, going into the school and hey, do what I say and I'll arrest you. I know that's not really how it works. But the point is we give to them and say, we give them the edict that you're part of the school community and you definitely have a role, no doubt. But whether it's SROs or whether it's a homecoming parade, we can be a part interwoven into the school district, and people notice. It takes a while, but people notice. We've been doing homecoming parade for a number of years now, and they started inviting me as mayor to just speak real briefly at the actual pep rally at the stadium. And they're not there to hear me, so I totally get it. But it is important to give just a few words to say, hey, we as a city appreciate you, love you, and we wish you the best of luck in your game. And whenever you need something from us, give us a call. And people can connect to that, and people can relate to that. And that's, from our standpoint, that's the goal. Is okay, we're real people, we're not robots, and we're not just giving out tickets. We want to be your partner, and so we can definitely do more of that.
Thank you for sharing those great ideas, concepts. Thank you. Hey, administrator. Hey, central office. Did you hear that? I know you're hearing. Don't act like you can't hear that. Stick.
Great ideas, you guys. Great ideas. I'm excited that you guys are promoting the fact that we need to have more engagement with our community because that is crucial. And again, principals out there, they're not going to reach out to you. You need to make that initial phone call because there's, everybody's busy, but we need to make sure that we are inviting our community into our schools. Real quick, you guys, last question. Can you believe it? Oh my goodness. It's the last question before the lightning round, before the Échale Ganas question. And it's a super easy question. Tom, I'm going to start off with you because it is simple, easy, and fill in the blank.
Oh.
So super easy. Here's a question, or here's a statement. If I was in charge of the education system, I would blank to make it better.
Strive.
Right.
No, I don't know if it's a one blank question or what.
No, you could add some stuff there. Strive to do what?
I would say just it's kind of like everybody in this panel said, and I think probably everybody knows, right? There just needs to be input from everybody. Even like policing's not in a silo. I don't think education should kind of be in a silo. So just all the community engagement, right? Every community is different. Some people might want to have different things or think certain things are more important than others. I would just try to get input from everybody that you can and have true, we say police community partnerships, but education community partnerships, government community partnerships, whatever.
Absolutely. That's a great idea. Even if it's quarterly, right? Even
Sure.
if it's quarterly throughout the year, just inviting folks in from different perspectives to kind of talk a little bit about what your vision is as a principal with your kids and your staff and how you work together. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Crystal, how about you? Let me tell you the statement one more time. If I was in charge of the education system in my state, I would blank to make it better.
So how much time do I get?
It's quick. It's a fill in the blank.
Dang. Okay. Two major things that I would love to change. One, kids need, Mr. Thavat, how many credits do they need to graduate at this point?
26.
They need 26 credits to graduate. And then how many classes are they required to take per year?
It's different.
It depends.
8 usually?
Eight.
So 8 times 4 is what?
32.
And they need 26?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first questioned this, they were like, well, in case a kid fails a class, they have, extra. Well, a kid's going to fail a class because he's taking too many classes. I think if they reduce the number of classes they would take a year and be able to focus on it, not only would they have more time to focus on, the classes that they need to graduate, but then teachers wouldn't be so overloaded with teaching. If it's 8, then they get a conference period, hopefully. 7 classes, that's ridiculous and unneeded. So that's one. Second, I think we should segregate kids, and not based on race, of course, but with ability. If you put, you can pack a class with 40 students that are all want to be there and want to learn and want to pay attention, and give them all to, give them more. So that poor teacher does have 40 kids, but all these 40 kids want to learn. And then the kids that, aren't so into learning and need a little bit more help, then make those class sizes smaller, but then the teacher can focus a little more. So those would be my 2 main ideas that I could go into for a longer time, but Mr. Thavat said so.
Quick and in a hurry. Thank you so much, Crystal, for those 2 ideas. Jeff, let's finish this strong, sir.
Well, I feel like that's more of a dissertation question than a fill in the blank question, like Crystal said. No, my quick take on it is, if I could change something in the education system as a whole, is to give school districts more control over their own destinies, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is that each school district is different, and a district in West Texas is way different than a district here. And yes, certainly have basic requirements, not talking about that. But I guess more from an elective standpoint, hey, well, we focus on this, but this other district, well, we shouldn't have to focus on that if it's not our thing. And like I said, it's a way bigger discussion. It's just, I just feel like that the more control you can give back to school districts from an education system in Texas standpoint, then the better off everybody's going to be, because at the end of the day, it's the people that live in those districts that elect the school boards, and they appoint the principals and things like that. And hey, if that community has a certain standard, then either you have to live up to it or something else has to change. So more local control, I feel like, is the best way to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much, you guys, for the wonderful insights. And we are ready. We are ready for the Échale Ganas questions.
All right. Thank you. And that was the whole purpose of the show today, guys, was to, what are you seeing? That's why it's a fill in the blank. But what you see, Jeff, is totally different than what Crystal, because Crystal had a shoe in each side of the fence. And then Tom brings that other perspective. So these are the type of conversations that need to happen, big picture, holistically as a community. And I'm talking about the state of Texas community. These are the type of conversations, because what you see in your community as the leader, Jeff, is going to be different than what Tom sees as the leader of his community in that aspect. And then Crystal needs a good workforce and prepared workforce that is motivated to ensure that they provide the best customer service, because that's what we are. We're a service industry in the United States, bottom line. And how are we providing that service to our fellow citizen? And so we're going to provide this now. Panel, I told you before the show, this is a lightning round. And no elaboration. No, it's just keep it simple, baby.
That's a tough ask for this group.
I kind of figured that one out, Jeff. And I kind of did. That's why I'm reiterating. Don't make me look at you like this and do the Pac-Man sound. You're going too long. All right. So ganas, Jeff. You know what ganas is, Jeff?
I do not.
Right, Jeff. Don't worry about it. That's the purpose of this PGP podcast, Puras Ganas podcast. It's a spiritual word for all Hispanics. It doesn't matter where you're at. Argentina, Bolivia, El Salvador, Guatemala, Puerto Rico, Cuba. We all use it. And it's not a definition. It's not a definition in the book. It's a spiritual heritage thing to where a grandma yells at her grandchild, "Échele ganas, mija," when she's playing the mariachi. Or a mom, being that toxic mom, at the football game, she yells, "Échale ganas, mijo." It doesn't matter. It's a spiritual word. There is no equate. No equate in English, Jeff. Some people try to say it's grit. It's not grit because we're talking about generational love and determination of a people. And that's what really bonds us all. Trust me, our Spanishes are totally different. Coming here to North Texas, I found out about El Salvadoreño Spanish, Guatemalteco Spanish. It's not Mexican Spanish. It's totally different. But one word unites us all, ganas. So, Jeff, we're going to start off with you, sir. We're going to start off with the lightning round. So here we go, Jeff. My mayor of Saxe, Texas, give advice to a new teacher.
Don't give up. You're making a difference.
Read a note, an email, or a text from a citizen or colleague or customer who inspired you.
Dear Mr. Mayor, I cannot believe you answered my email. I have never had a mayor answer my email. You must be on something, but I thank you very much.
There you go. Send some flowers to an active colleague who inspires you in your work.
Our city secretary who makes everything happen, and she is wonderful.
What's her name?
Leah Granger.
Leah, it's timestamped on YouTube forever until the meteor hits us. It will always be here. All right. Name one person that the audience should follow on social media.
Mayor Rachel Proctor, Mayor DeSoto. She has some awesome inspirational posts. Please follow her.
What is your favorite action movie of the 80s or 90s?
Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Stop with the AI, guys. Arnold's going to come back. All of you, stop it.
Awesome movie.
Disneyland or the beach? Why?
The beach by far, because I want a place where all I hear is the ocean sound and nothing else.
What is the best fast food burger franchise, and what do you order there?
Oh my gosh, Whataburger without a doubt. Number one, no lettuce with cheese.
Who's number one? Prince, the Beatles, or Led Zeppelin, sir?
Gotta say, Prince, that's who I grew up with, and he was a multi-generational talent. Unbelievable.
If people want to pick your brain, sir, how can they reach out to you?
Well, at Jeff Bickerstaff on social media, SaxeWeather.com, City of Saxe. I am not hard to find.
And for the audience, that guy keeps me alive. You got this Mexican coming from El Paso who never knew about tornadoes. And when I landed here, I learned about hail this big, the size of meteors, and tornadoes. Shut the front door. Oh my God, that guy keeps me alive. He comes on live. Thank you, sir. Jeff, I appreciate you for your talents and for your leadership.
Thank you very much.
Here we go.
Look for that next live stream.
Exactly. All right, give advice to a new teacher, Crystal.
Exercise. Join a cycling class or a running club or something, but you need an outlet to do some physical work so that you can be your best self for those kids.
Read a note, an email, or a text from a citizen, a colleague, or a customer who inspired you.
Oh, I didn't get one out, but a lot of people thank me for helping them lose weight. Yay.
Send some flowers to an active colleague who inspires you in your work.
Oh, my elementary school teachers.
All right. What are their names? Say them real quick.
Miss Dennis passed away. Miss Cardosa, Miss Ibarra, Miss Valencia, Miss Hurd, and Miss Malep.
Timestamp. Show this on YouTube. Name one person people should follow on social media.
Ed Milet.
Ed Milet. On what platform?
Mostly YouTube, but anything but YouTube, all his podcasts. He's really good.
What's your favorite action movie of the 80s or 90s?
Sweet Home Alabama.
Disneyland or the beach? Why?
Because you can run in the sand.
What's your favorite fast food for her? Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Seriously.
I'm sorry. It was coming out of my mouth, Crystal.
I'm glad you caught it.
I caught it and I stopped it.
Good job.
But there are salad places. What do you prefer? What franchise? What food?
XCF Kitchen. Our meal preps are the best. Thank you very much for the plug-in.
Plug. All right. My bad, Crystal, when it was leaving my mouth. Who's number one? Prince, the Beatles, or Led Zeppelin?
George Strait.
Out
Out of the box.
directions.
I think out of the box.
That's not on the diddle. Follow directions.
This is my This was
Oh
my
my Lord.
problem all my life.
For the record, I follow directions.
Yes, sir. Exactly. Very much. You
For the
see?
record, I'm
There's that rebel teacher right there. How
always.
can people get a hold of you, young lady?
I remember when you asked me this, I was like, "Are you sure? Me? Remember me?" All sorts of ways. I'm on X. I'm on every social platform. I'm on YouTube. It's all with the gym name for the most part. I do have a personal Facebook that I'm happy to friend you, but Extreme Core Fitness, Extreme with no E, 3 words, Extreme Core Fitness. Please follow, like. That would be awesome.
And that's exactly why I asked you, Crystal, because we need to hear from people that some people don't want to hear from, but most importantly, because you had the wherewithal to drop and everybody out there, she dropped a steady paycheck to go solo and become a businesswoman. That, my friend, that is the American dream. That is a role model right there, not only for women, but for all future entrepreneurs. That's the kind of path that you need to follow.
Thank you.
Here we go, Tomas Witten.
Bring it, bro.
Give advice to a new teacher.
Never forget why you joined the profession, and remember that how important it is, and you can make a difference in shaping the future.
Read a note, an email, or a text from a citizen, a colleague, or a customer that inspired you.
I too did not bring one, but I can tell you we get them all the time on our website, and anytime they're complimenting our guys for reaching out or doing a better job at community policing or forming a partnership, we always share it, and we're thrilled to get those.
Send some flowers to an active colleague who inspires you in the work.
I would say Stephen Mayer. He's a chief in a place called Richwood, Texas, and that guy just cares about everyone. Like, it's impressive.
Name one person on the audience should follow on social media.
How about an organization? It's called CLEAT. It's a Combined Law Enforcement Association of Texas. That organization is always sticking up for these guys when they need it and putting out a lot of good stories whenever they get an opportunity.
What is your favorite action movie of the 80s or 90s?
Die Hard.
Disneyland or the beach?
The beach, because there's no kids, but I'm just kidding. Not really, because it's just relaxing. Like I said, I just came back from it, and it was awesome to listen to the waves.
What is the best fast food burger franchise, and what do you order, sir?
Whataburger, #1 with cheese and ketchup only.
Who's number 1, sir? Prince, the Beatles, or Led Zeppelin?
Led Zeppelin. Sorry.
And how can people get a hold of you?
So just at our LLPD TX, which is Lacey Lakeview Police Department, Texas.org. It hooks you up to our whatever social tree. So it goes to our every social media platform we have. And I read them all. So.
Thank you, panel. Thank you, Tom, Crystal, Jeff, for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you to the audience for joining us today. It's about having those conversations to ensure that our institution, whether it be a pre-K, middle school, elementary, high school, becomes the better version of itself, because we're not a silo. I think it was Tom who said, we're not a silo. We're part of a community. Even within that, we need to be able to talk to the elementary principal and the high school principal if you're in the middle, because all of us represent that city, represent that area, that region. And the more we communicate with everybody, our kids will be going to the franchises, to future employment, to create a bond with PD, because we're all part of the same effort. And it's about making this country the best version of itself as it evolves and keeps changing with time, because this beautiful experiment is about to turn 250 years, and that's what we are, a melting pot of success. And it takes this. That's the purpose of this show, to make sure that we just don't talk to superintendents, to national speakers, to authors, but our community members, because that's where our students go. That's where your students go. They go out into the community, and what kind of product are we putting out as educators to ensure the success not only of the community, but of a thriving nation. So thank you very much for being here today. Join us next week. E Pluribus Unum, Part 2. Estamos aquí. How to support our EB students. Join us. We need you, because as we know, we have a lot of great stuff going out there with this topic, and you need to be part of this conversation. Panel, say goodbye to everybody.
Thank you.
Hold on tight. Thank you. We'll see you next week at 4.